Welcome into the KwikCast, the official podcast of Kwik Trip. My name is Chris Calloway, and I'm joined today by Isaac Wilde, who some people refer to as the Senior Food Research and Product Development Analyst here at Kwik Trip, but I'd imagine many people just shorten that up to Chef Isaac. Chef, welcome onto the KwikCast.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
So where are you at right now? You got the kitchen in the background. Where are you actually sitting here on the Kwik Trip campus?
I am in the R&D test kitchen here in our bread and bun bakery on campus here in La Crosse. And yeah.
That's awesome. We'll get into all that a little bit later on. But let's go back a little bit. You're coming up here on 2 years at Kwik Trip this year. How did you first get interested in cooking? I know you've been to Culinary Institute of America. You've worked at tons of different roles at restaurants and in the corporate chef type of career path. But what got you interested in cooking early on as a young kid?
Well, first of all, I was fortunate enough to have two parents that were pretty good cooks. So kind of natural at a younger age. And I think I was also the product of kind of the Food Network revolution, which became more accessible in households. I always found it to be super interesting. And so I like to think I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to be involved in the food industry or be a chef. I will say, I mean, that wasn't necessarily thought to be the most acceptable position. I'm from a small town in Wisconsin, north central Wisconsin, and so it wasn't really seen as an appropriate career path. It was more of a got to go to the 4-year college and get a degree. Cooking can always be a hobby, but I think something real deep down inside just knew that eventually it was going to happen.
So what made the switch that made you decide that, yeah, this can be a career and I'm going to go to the Culinary Institute of America?
So after I attended college, I was young enough. I thought, hey, if I'm going to try this, I'm going to do it now. I picked the first chef job I could find, which was a prep cook at a really cool boutique hotel in downtown Milwaukee, and kind of worked my way up there. I worked kind of all stations, ended up being the sous chef of the restaurant, and worked in a couple different restaurants in the Milwaukee area, and decided that, hey, I kind of like this, and I want to take it to the next level. So I made the decision to move to Hyde Park, New York, and do the CIA thing. So I got a culinary degree, and then actually stuck around and got a bachelor's degree.
So what's culinary school like? Is it a lot of knife work and science and learning about food pairings, or how do you kind of sum up your time there?
All of the above. It's a lot about discipline, organization, and really understanding the fundamental components of cooking, from organization. I'm sure knife skills very important. It's a lot of classical French training, so a lot of French food, but it's very demanding. And you work your way. It's all from fundamentals, knife skills, all the way to working in high-end full-service restaurants as a part of the curriculum.
So what are some of those skills that you like having in your back pocket? I mean, I am terrible at cutting up onions. I feel like no matter how often I do it, I can never get it consistently. Is that one of those things that you can whip out and dice an onion in less than a minute?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. There's enough muscle memory. You can almost do it with your eyes closed. I mean, sharp knives is actually really important, and you don't need a lot of them. A paring knife, a good chef's knife, and a serrated knife, and you can kind of get away prepping and cutting anything with those 3 knives. And then just understanding the basics a little bit, and you're kind of set for success there.
And not to get on a tangent right away, but still got all 10 fingers, no bad injuries in the kitchen so far?
Yeah, no major war wounds. I mean, you get bit by a knife every once in a while, even the best do. But my hands are a little softer now than when I used to work in, traditional restaurants.
So that's kind of my next question. You mentioned you worked a lot of different positions: line cook, grill cook, sous chef, into a job as a corporate chef. But what kind of made you want to take the jump to the job here at Kwik Trip? What was it about the role, the environment, the atmosphere here that enticed you to want to make that switch?
Really, it's about work-life balance. Going from the traditional restaurant industry, while it's really fulfilling and super exciting, the reality is that you're working nights, weekends, holidays. So it's trickier to kind of have family, spend time with family. And, I think there are a lot of different roles in the culinary world that you don't really know about as a young chef. So I was able to move into a corporate chef role where we're supporting customers from convenience stores to large chains all over North America. And then just over time was able to get familiar with the folks over here at Kwik Trip, and there's a once in a lifetime opportunity to come join the team here, and I couldn't pass it up.
So you grew up in the Wisconsin area, spent a lot of your time working here. Did you ever think that this type of role would be available to someone like you?
No, no, I never in a million years would I have thought that, one, that convenience stores have chefs and whole R&D teams of very skilled culinary individuals. So it's pretty crazy to go from, not even thinking that being a chef or working in the food service industry is a real career to being here.
And let's talk about that team a little bit. You're on the greater product research and development team within the product operations. You work alongside dairy, bread and bun, sweet goods, our kitchen facilities. What's kind of the main focus of the team that you're on, though?
Sure. So myself, two food scientists, Lacey Holcomb and Katerina Nemeth, and then our manager, Kevin Butner. Our team really is in charge of all of the production facilities here on the La Crosse campus. So anything that Kwik Trip actually makes, we're involved in revisions, new products, new flavors, new varieties of, anything from our flavored milks to bakery goods to our take-home meals or anything that comes out of our kitchen facility.
So that includes something famous like glazers?
It does. Now, we don't touch things like that very often. I mean, it's something we would always like to improve, but look at it very carefully because they've been amazing for so long.
Right, but you've gotten to be able a little adventurous with something like dunkers. So you see the reaction to people going crazy for the cherry dunkers and the raspberry dunkers, like to the point where it's tough for us to keep them in stores sometime. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be a good feeling knowing that you put a lot of time into getting something into stores and then people go crazy about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, on that note, we have another super exciting flavor coming out really soon. I'm not going to share with you just yet what it is. But seeing those out there, and they're really fun and different. And, it's always nice to see something out of the ordinary that grabs your attention. And, and we can actually execute, and it's really flavorful too. It's a win-win.
So you started back in 2022. What are some of the projects that you've got to really, for no pun intended, got a chance to sink your teeth into over the last year and a half or so?
So first off, some of our new premium sandwiches. We have a honey ham and Havarti on a pretzel bun in our fresh case, as well as a pastrami and Swiss on our marble rye. And going into that, we wanted to kind of improve the quality of our proteins and sandwiches and even look at how we actually prepare them, how we're going to thinly slice and shave the meat so you have a better eating experience. And pastrami is something that isn't as popular in the Midwest, but it's a really, really awesome beef product. It's kind of like roast beef on the next level. So those are out in stores now. So that was one of the first projects that I was on, and kind of our sandwich and salads, all those fresh case items, we're constantly working on new ideas and concepts. So, you can look for new products being out there soon.
So is that pastrami something you brought back with you from your time in New York? Because I know it's pretty popular out there.
Yeah, it was certainly influenced, and I think everyone here was kind of hesitant, to move forward with it because we're not familiar with it. But at the end of the day, it's just a super flavorful roast beef with lots of black pepper and just really aggressive seasonings rather than your standard roast beef, which is nothing wrong with that. But, it's kind of the next evolution.
And a lot of times you'll see it in the fresh case in the cooler, but if you ever see that on the hot spot, when that gets a little warm, that takes that sandwich to the next level.
Yeah, I don't want to knock cold sandwiches, but almost every sandwich out there, in my opinion, is better when you warm it up. And we actually sell that ham and Havarti on pretzel bun in a microwavable container, just if you want to take the chill off of it. It really makes all the flavors kind of pop, and that cheese melts really, really nice. So it's kind of fun.
And speaking of the microwave, I know that some chefs disdain it a little bit. Some swear by it, that it's sort of like a hack in the kitchen. And a lot of our things that we have are microwavable. You look at take-home meals, you look at the ready-to-eat proteins, those take-home meats that are now in stores. I mean, the microwave, not so bad of a kitchen appliance, right?
No, there's a time and a place for every kitchen equipment, and a microwave is definitely one of them. The take-home meals are essentially designed to be able to be microwaved and still have a really good quality. We come across certain ingredients that don't hold up as well, but we try and be really careful and make really good decisions so that all our guests get that awesome experience. The take-home meats is another example of a microwavable meal, but we also spent quite a bit of time on other heating instructions. So if you want to spend a little bit more time and you're going to compose a meal with it, you can pop it in the oven or in the broiler, saute pan on a grill, and you get a slightly different experience. But it's really how much time do you have to get dinner on the table?
Right. And those ready to eat proteins, those take home meats are really, really good. The fajita chicken I really like because very versatile. The Korean barbecue one also really good. What's the life cycle of a project like that look like from sort of conception to the point where it's actually in a package in the store?
So it all starts kind of with the idea phase. We get a request from our internal group directly, like, hey, let's try and go after a product like this. The R&D team also kind of monitors market trends, what are new flavors emerging, what are new things out there that are going to be popular soon. So we do that, and then we start trying to find ingredients, and we work on them in the test kitchen behind me, just in really small scales. And we try and find a recipe that works really well. It's flavorful. And when the time comes that we get the green light to take it to the next level, we'll take it to a production test in our facilities just to make sure that we can produce the same quality product in a really large scale. So we need to make thousands of sandwiches or thousands of our take-home meats rather than just 2 or 10 or a dozen in our test kitchen. So we'll go through that, find anything that we need to change to make sure that we have that same quality through that whole production process. And then, we bring it back to our test kitchen every Friday. We sit around a table and we review these products, new ideas, new products before they go to the stores. We make sure that it's good to go. And everyone gives it the green light or keep working on it. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of rework that happens. It's pretty rare that in any type of cooking, even, convenience store or in your home kitchen, it takes a number of tries to get it just right.
I mean, that's what all good chefs say is you got to taste along the way, taste every step of the process. But I mean, how is that feedback like? Is it disheartening, to know that like, okay, we got to go back a couple of steps to get this right? I mean, or is that just all part of the mindset of a chef that you'll do whatever it takes to get it right?
It's part of the mindset. I mean, as a chef, you learn early on that most ideas and concepts are going to fail. But even knowing that, I mean, it certainly takes a toll after a while to have to reformulate and rework a recipe, but it's all a part of the process. And, as long as we stay on it, we'll get that awesome final product out to our guests.
And I know another one of those products that you've had a hand in that will be hitting the store soon is some of our pizzas. We've got a number of different varieties of pizzas that we produce, but there's some pretty unique ones that are better than your average pizza for dang sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're constantly working on new limited time offering pizzas, LTOs, and we have a calendar throughout the year. So at all times we have a different pizza that's not on our normal menu. So some coming up that are brand new to our lineup coming out this fall. We have a chicken bacon ranch in our cheese mountain pizza lineup, which is our take and bake, but also sold off our hotspot in stores. So that one's new and exciting. And these pizzas, if they do well, they'll come back into the rotation. You never really know when. We like to keep it a little bit exciting. And then another new one we have coming out at the beginning of next year, we have a Mediterranean-inspired pizza. So it's vegetable forward. We have roasted artichokes, olives, feta cheese, like really awesome, fun, unique flavors that are a little bit different than our traditional pizzas. So that one would be exciting, and that's one that we're working on finalizing all our testing on, and hopefully we'll get it out as soon as possible in January.
It's a little bit of a sneak peek there. I'm personally excited about the Mediterranean one. That sounds awesome. But you had mentioned earlier that the idea of scaling, you finish that Mediterranean recipe on a pizza, but you got to be able to produce thousands of them to be able to get to our 800 plus convenience stores. What are some of those challenges in scaling some of these products and recipes that your average person might not, expect?
It's really ensuring that we get the proper mix of ingredients on every pizza. We don't want to have one pizza with all black olives or, so it's really just making sure that it's consistent through the entire run. Soup is a great example. Lacey, our food scientist, is our soup expert. She spends a lot of time writing new recipes for soups, and on that note, we have some fun new flavors coming out. But when you scale the recipe, you can't just multiply it. It's not a linear equation. So like the amount of water and seasonings and the viscosity change as you go from a small 3 gallon batch to making 1,000 gallons of soup. So we have to kind of do some trial and error. I mean, she's done it enough that we kind of know where we need to make changes, but we have to take it to a large scale, come back, make adjustments, and go back to a large scale. So a lot of back and forth and a lot of just kind of knowledge from prior experiences to get the recipes just right.
I mean, and it feels like that type of experience isn't something that you can replicate anywhere on your career path before this. I mean, you talk about the trial and error, but there's certainly somewhat of a playbook that, Kwik Trip's been doing this for a long time, but I'd imagine that remains one of the challenges, especially as Kwik Trip continues to grow and add more and more stores, and there's more and more demand that you need to meet, right?
Right. And I think it's our guests are becoming more aware of the culinary scene, and they really appreciate freshness. So not only making more of all of our products, but making more quality, fresh, flavorful, items that we can get out to all of our guests. International flavors are trending, like the Korean chicken you mentioned, like by far the best take-home meat, and might not be super familiar to all of our guests. It's a kind of a dish that you may not want to buy all the ingredients to make at home, but now we have that convenient way for you to try these new flavors in your kitchen, kind of without all the risk of mixing those spices together.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly easy to mess up, as I have done plenty of times as an amateur chef. And like you said, we do play a lot of things down the middle. You try to appease to a wide base, but it's got to be fun some of those times that you can experiment and push the boundaries a little bit in your kitchen there, right?
Absolutely. Always trying to incorporate those bold flavors, a little bit more spicy items here and there. International flavors, even like the Mediterranean pizza, like it's really exciting.
Awesome. So contrary to popular belief, Kwik Trip coworkers don't eat every single meal at our stores, although sometimes it does seem that way. What are your favorite types of restaurants to go to, and how do you approach when you're going out to dinner? Are you able to kind of turn your brain off and enjoy the meal, or are you critiquing everything at the menu and on your plate and how it all comes together?
It's a little bit of both. When we're deciding on a restaurant to go to, I think we're always looking for something that's really locally based if possible. A staple in the community or maybe a new restaurant that's locally owned, and hopefully supports kind of our local farmers and dairies and all that. But when I'm ordering off a menu, I typically look for things that that have to be made a la minute or made to order. Not saying you shouldn't order things that are made in advance, but I want to see the actual skills of the kitchen, a really quality fresh pasta dish, or something that has to be sauteed to order rather than a really delicious braised short rib, which isn't done when you order it, right? That's done, potentially a day ahead of time or more. And it's really good, but I like to see what they're actually cooking live that night. And,
I heard one time that if the restaurant has a really, really big menu, it's probably something you want to stay away from. Where if they have a smaller menu, it's probably stuff they're making to order, like you said, and stuff that they know they can do really, really good. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, a really long menu tends to scare me. I think it can be executed really well at, diner or breakfast, really kind of things that are really cross-utilized well, but a shorter menu definitely ensures that all the ingredients are probably going to be fresher. All the cooks and chefs are really focused on what they're doing. But as a diner, I think it makes my decision a little bit easier on what meal I actually want to pick, which appetizer, because you're not overwhelmed with all these different options. So I prefer the shorter menu for sure.
So you spend your day in the kitchen 9 to 5. Are you going home and trying to cook up something spectacular, or are you kind of maybe putting some Easy Mac in the microwave from time to time?
We rely on a takeout meal like once or twice a week, but we try and cook every night fresh at home. But that doesn't mean it's all super complicated. there's always ingredients in the pantry or the fridge to make a really good quality, simple, fast pasta dish. Um, Sundays is definitely a night where we like to make a pot of soup or a braise in winter so we can enjoy that for the first part of the week, maybe repurpose it into something else. So we try to do some planning, but I'm also the chef that's guilty of like going to the grocery store every day because I don't know what we're going to cook for dinner until we're already on our way home from work. So it's a little bit of both, but having some good staple pantry items is kind of key for those nights where you're kind of in a tight spot.
So, as an aspiring, home chef and myself, give me a recipe or give me a dish that you've liked making recently that somebody could be able to easily replicate at home.
Okay, so I actually made this one probably about 2 days ago, and it's an example of kind of our pantry pasta dinner, really few ingredients. So we use orecchiette pasta, which means little ears. They're little ear-shaped kind of dumpling pastas. You can find them in pretty much any grocery store. And it's going to be made with Italian sausage, whether it's sweet, hot, mild, whatever you prefer. So you saute this Italian sausage. You want to get nice and brown and crumbled. We toss in some sliced mushrooms and make sure you get those really nice and caramelized, some onions, a little splash of white wine if you have some, or chicken stock. And that's kind of about it. You want to let it simmer, and then we're going to add in kind of like a bitter element, whether it's spinach or kale or broccoli rabe, just kind of a green item to kind of brighten it up. And it kind of works against all the fattiness and richness of the pork sausage. So you have this lovely Italian sausage with my personal preference would be kale or broccoli rabe, a little bit of onion and mushrooms kind of playing that background note. And then when you do simple things like this, and I don't know if I made it sound simple, but it's super easy, the little details are important, right? So if you have a dish like that, you want to incorporate a little bit of fresh lemon juice, just a little bit of acid, some salt, maybe a little bit of olive oil drizzled over the top, and some really good quality Parmesan cheese over the top, as much as you want. And I probably am guilty of putting way too much on. But it's the
I was going
little
to say,
things
you
that
got
are
to say
important.
cheese at some point.
Oh yeah, of course, I was definitely cheese. So that's
So,
an example of the pantry pasta, the orecchiette with Italian sausage and broccoli rabe.
okay, next time I'm in the pasta aisle, I'm going to look for orecchiette and
Look for the little ears.
very cool. You mentioned being kind of shaped by Food Network, Food TV, everything from Guy Fieri to Top Chef to series that have been sort of drama comedies like The Bear. Do you find yourself drawn to that kind of TV? And do you like how cooking is represented on TV?
I do. I think people could be a little bit critical of it. Guy Fieri, for example, I love diners, drive-ins, and dives. He's a very bold character, and I understand he can be polarizing, but I love to see that he's visiting these like local institutions, like these bars and taverns, and I just love to see what they're cooking. I mean, it's easy to see all the fine dining restaurants out there, but I like to see that. The Bear is a phenomenal show. It does give me flashbacks of being a line cook and all the pressure, but I find that great entertainment. And then if you're looking for a cooking show, I think Top Chef is a great option that's airing right now, primarily because it's Wisconsin based. And being from Milwaukee, being able to see the restaurants and the grocery store that I used to shop in, on national TV is kind of fun. And, there's a couple local chefs represented on that show as well. So that's really cool to see. Yeah, those are kind of the top three. I love to put them on in the background. We're not as dedicated as we used to be, but if we're cooking dinner on a Friday night, there's probably going to be diners, drive-ins, and dives on in the living room just for some background noise.
Triple D marathon, nothing wrong with that. It's,
Yeah.
plenty of TVs in America. So
Yeah.
cool. Some rapid fire questions to finish things up here. And you might
Okay.
be one of the best people to ask this question to. Let's say I give you $20 and you have to
Mm-hmm.
come out of Kwik Trip with dinner for the family. What
Yeah.
are you buying?
Oh, $20. Okay. I am going to go straight to the meat taste, and I'm going to find a protein that looks good. And I would actually probably go with some burger patties at this point, because at Kwik Trip we offer really great produce too. So it sounds simple, but I would probably grab some burgers, and maybe some bacon as my bigger spend. And then we're going to hit up some freshly baked buns, obviously from the facility that our test kitchen's in. And then to kind of take it over the edge, we're going to look for all our garnishes. So for sure grabbing an avocado, probably some fresh tomatoes, obviously our cheese, and then kind of a sauce of sorts, which, we might even have a condiment cup that we could sneak in there to really top it off if our budget's running pretty tight. So I would do a $20 burger dinner for the family.
Nice. Sounds good. This one might be like choosing between your children, but if you
Okay.
had to choose Dunkers or Glazers, what are you going with?
Dunker.
Dunkers. I
Blueberry
agree.
Dunker. Although I
Good.
will say that the new LTO flavor coming out will probably be my new favorite.
Oh, man. That's a tease. I can't wait for that. And then, we got to ask about chocolate milk. Are you a brown cap guy or a green cap guy?
Brown cap.
Brown cap. It's always the right answer. Cool. Well, what is something that you've got yourself excited about, whether it's at work, whether it's outside of work? What's something you're excited about that's coming up for you?
Excited for spring to be coming back around. We had kind of a weird winter, so excited to get out. And, I'm not a huge gardener, but we love to have some planters, a lot of fresh herbs and things like that. So really excited to get your hands dirty. My wife and I have a 9-month-old at home, so we're kind of excited to have that first summer out of the infant phase. So just lots of family time at home, playing in the yard is kind of the top of mind right now as we roll into spring and summer here.
That's awesome. We're all excited for that too. Chef Isaac Wilde, we appreciate your time here on the KwikCast with us this afternoon. Lots of cool stuff coming up in the Kwik Trip kitchen, and you'll see it in a convenience store near you coming up soon.
Thanks, Chris.
And we'll see you next time.